When scientists placed the fabric under the microscope and magnified the Virgin's eyes, they pulled back from the lens. Trembling, there, reflected in the irises of that impossible image, were 13 people, perfectly clear. As if they had been photographed at the exact moment the Virgin opened the mantle before the bishop. But that was in 1531. Photography would only be invented 300 years later. And there was more. The figures obeyed the laws of human corneal refraction. They were positioned exactly as they should be, if those eyes were real, alive, observing a real scene. Modern science discovered something no human painter could ever have done. The eyes of the Virgin of Guadalupe function like true eyes. But that wasn't all. When they analyzed the fabric, a rough piece of cactus fiber, the cheapest type used by poor indigenous people, they discovered it should have rotted away in 20 years. At most, it was organic, fragile, without any treatment. And yet, there it was, almost 500 years later, intact. They searched for paint, found none. There were no brush strokes, no layers of pigment. The image wasn't on the fabric. It was in the fabric, as if it had been imprinted by light, by something that passed through the fiber and left its mark from the inside out. They tried to replicate it. They failed, and then they discovered the impossible. The stars on the mantle, 46 golden stars, embroidered on the blue veil covering the Virgin. When astronomers mapped them, they realized they weren't random. They were a constellation. The exact constellation that was over Mexico City on the morning of the 12th of December, 1531, seen from heaven, as if God himself had looked down and imprinted what he saw. This wasn't a painting, it was a sign. Juan Diego was nobody, an indigenous widower, poor, forgotten by the world. He woke before sunrise to walk hours to the nearest church because he wanted to learn about the God of the Christians. Not because anyone forced him, but because something inside him burned. That morning, he expected nothing. He was just walking. But then he heard the singing. It wasn't human. It was as if the entire sky was singing. He stopped, looked around. The sound came from above, from Tepeyac Hill, the same place where the Aztecs used to worship Tonantzin, the mother goddess. He climbed, and he saw her, a young woman, brown-skinned like him, pregnant, surrounded by light so pure he could barely look. She smiled and spoke in Nahuatl, his people's language. Juanito, Juan Dieguito, the smallest of my children, where are you going? He fell to his knees, couldn't speak. I am the ever-Virgin Mary, mother of the true God through whom one lives. I want you to build me a temple here, so that in it I may show my love, my compassion, my help and my protection. Because I am your merciful mother. Go to the bishop. Tell him what you have seen. Juan Diego went, but the bishop didn't believe him, asked for proof. Juan Diego returned, defeated, and told the Virgin. She wasn't irritated. She simply said, "Very well, my son. Come back tomorrow. I will give you a sign." But the next day, Juan Diego's uncle was dying. Juan Diego couldn't return. He spent the night beside the old man, praying, watching him waste away. In the early morning, desperate, he left to find a priest who could give last rites. He tried to avoid Tepeyac Hill, didn't want to face the Virgin, felt guilty for having failed. But she appeared before him. "Juanito, what troubles you?" he explained, ashamed. She smiled again and said something he would never forget. "Am I not here? I who am your mother. Are you not under my shadow and protection? Your uncle will not die. At this moment he is already healed." And then she sent him to the top of the hill, told him to gather flowers, but it was December, the middle of winter. Nothing bloomed there. Juan Diego climbed, and when he reached the top, he saw the impossible. Castilian roses, fresh, fragrant, blooming on the dry, cold earth. Flowers that didn't exist in Mexico. Flowers that only grew in Spain. He gathered them with trembling hands. The Virgin arranged them inside his mantle, a rough tilma, made of maguey fiber, and said, "Now go. Open the mantle only before the bishop." Juan Diego entered the episcopal palace. The guards tried to stop him, but he insisted. When he was finally received, he opened the mantle. The roses fell to the floor, and the bishop fell to his knees. Because there, imprinted on the rough fabric, was she, the Virgin Mary, exactly as Juan Diego had described, brown-skinned, pregnant, hands folded, the blue mantle covered with stars, the sun's rays around her, everything there, alive, real. No one had painted that. It simply appeared. In the following centuries, they tried everything. In 1791, a goldsmith spilled nitric acid on the mantle while cleaning the frame. The acid penetrated the protective glass and fell on the fabric. It should have destroyed everything, but the image wasn't touched. Only a small brown stain remained beside it as testimony to the miracle. In 1921, a man hid a dynamite bomb inside a flower arrangement and placed it at the feet of the image. The explosion was devastating. It destroyed the marble altar, bent a metal crucifix, shattered the basilica's windows, but the mantle, intact, without a scratch. And then came the scientists. In 1936, Dr. Richard Kuhn, Nobel Prize winner in chemistry, analyzed fibers from the mantle, found no known dyes, no animal, vegetable, or mineral pigments. The image shouldn't exist. In 1979, Americans Philip Callahan and Jody Smith used infrared rays to study the fabric. They discovered the image has no sketches, no brush strokes, no corrections. It's simply there, as if it had been imprinted instantaneously. And then came the discoveries no one can explain. The stars on the mantle correspond exactly to the sky on the dawn of the 12th of December, 1531, seen from a celestial perspective. Whoever painted that would have to know advanced astronomy, something the indigenous people and even the Spaniards of that era didn't master. The temperature of the mantle remains constant at 36.6 degrees Celsius, human body temperature, as if it were alive. When they placed a stethoscope on the belly of the image, they heard heartbeats, rhythmic, like those of a baby in the womb, 115 beats per minute. And the eyes. The eyes. In 1929, Alfonso Marquet was the first to see. But it was in 1951 that José Aste Tunsman, an engineer and specialist in digital image processing, magnified the Virgin's eyes in high resolution and found 13 human figures reflected, not just in one eye, but in both, perfectly symmetrical, following the laws of the Purkinje-Sanson effect, which describes how images are reflected on the three surfaces of the human eye. That could only happen if the eyes were real, if they had seen something real. And most impressive, one of the figures reflected in the Virgin's eyes is that of an indigenous man, opening his mantle, Juan Diego. At the exact moment he showed the image to the bishop. The Virgin of Guadalupe isn't just an image, it's a photograph, taken by God. But why all this? Why so much care? Why so many signs? Because God knew what was at stake. When Our Lady appeared at Tepeyac, Mexico was bleeding. The Aztecs had been conquered. Thousands died. Their culture was shattered, and many still clung to the old gods' gods that demanded human sacrifices. 20,000 hearts ripped out per year at the top of the pyramids. Blood spilled to feed the sun. The Virgin of Guadalupe came to say, "Enough." She appeared dressed like an Aztec princess. The blue-green mantle was the color of royalty. The black sash at her waist indicated she was pregnant. The stars on her mantle showed she came from heaven. And the sun behind her, which was once worshipped as a god, was now beneath her feet. She was greater than the sun. The indigenous people understood immediately. This wasn't just a woman. She was the mother of the true God, and he was in her womb. In less than 10 years, 8 million indigenous people converted to Christianity. not by the sword, but by love, by the sign God had left imprinted on a piece of rough fabric. Our Lady of Guadalupe became the patroness of the Americas, the mother of all peoples, the one who unites heaven and earth. If stories like this touch your faith and make you reflect on the signs God still leaves in our world, subscribe to the channel. This way, you help us continue spreading the truths of our faith and the miracles that reveal God's real presence among us. Today, almost 500 years later, Juan Diego's mantle is still displayed in the Basilica of Guadalupe in Mexico City. Millions of people visit it every year. Scientists continue studying, and no one, to this day, has been able to explain it. Because there are things science cannot reach. There are mysteries only faith understands. And perhaps that's exactly what God wanted, that we look at that mantle and know without a shadow of doubt that He is here, that His mother protects us, that we are not alone. Juan Diego died in 1548, at age 74. He was canonized in 2002, but his mantle continues alive, defying time, defying logic, witnessing the impossible. Because God doesn't need to follow the rules of nature. He created them, and when He wanted to leave a sign to the world that His mother loves us, He simply imprinted her image on a fabric that should never have lasted, and made it last forever. May Our Lady of Guadalupe intercede for us. May she remind us that we are under her shadow and protection, and may she teach us to trust, as Juan Diego trusted, even when everything seemed impossible. Because for God, nothing is impossible.